Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. A 22-year study revealed that Black Americans lost a combined 80 million years of potential life over the span because of the pandemic, racial inequality, redlining, and other discriminatory tactics long seen in the United States. We will discuss that. Also, the IRS has admitted what many of us have known for quite some time, that Black taxpayers are more likely to get audited than any other group. And we will take a look at that. And Congressman James Clyburn, the kingmaker from South Carolina, might be in a bit of hot water with his constituents and perhaps fellow Democrats for his role in a Republican drawn and gerrymandered map. We're going to discuss that as well. Also, this morning, Gabrielle Union just made a rather curious admission about her family's finances. We're going to talk about that as well. Also, NNPA news, the Cincinnati Herald is reporting that the countdown has begun in Ohio. And this month, the Black Expo will take place downtown Columbus with 4 full days of diversified events celebrating African American culture, people, history, and contributions. More than 30,000 are expected to attend. And the Chicago Defender turns 118 years old. We'll talk about the longevity of Black newspapers, all that and more with Oshia Boyd. Good morning, Oshia. How are you?
Good morning.
She's so matter of fact. Good morning. Like a teacher.
Sorry.
I feel like I'm in class. Miss Boyd,
Sorry.
can I use the bathroom? Can I have a
Good
bathroom
morning,
pass?
Stacy. Well, I was trying to unmute, but then Greer unmuted me.
Blame Grid. That's what I do. So, Oshia, a new study shows that after some progress, the number of deaths in years of possible life lost among America's Black population stopped going down and then started going up again. The Journal of American Medical Association, or JAMA, said their results show that new ways of doing things are needed. They looked at statistics from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, which showed that when the coronavirus pandemic hit the world in 2020, the number of deaths in years of potential life loss went up. Compared to white people, 1.63 million more Black people died than they should have. Experts say that that's the equivalent of 80 million years of potential life during that 22-year period. So, Oshia, we are living less. We are living. We're living a shorter life, put it that way, than white folks right now.
Well, I mean, we knew that. we,
Well, duh.
we've known when you do quality of life studies. They had a quality of life study here in Indianapolis a few years ago, and just a dividing line of one street. If you live north of that street, which tends to be more white people live north of that street, like 5 more years of life, I believe it was. South of that street, where more Black people tend to live, 5 less years. So this is just adding into, I think it just adds more fuel to the reparations uh, discussions and I think it also adds, there's this idea that it's all us, it's our fault. Everything is our fault. I just actually received a letter to the opinion piece saying there's no such thing as white supremacy or racism, and Black people are basically, it's our fault that we've killed more white people than white people have killed Black people since 1968. He has some data. Um, it just shows that's not, again, we live in a precarious situation. To be Black in America is to be live in a precarious situation every single day. Um,
Yeah.
whether we want to recognize that or not. And there's some of us who don't want to recognize it, which is all the more, to me, imperative of why we have to actually pay attention at some point, and get involved in politics. They woke, but I don't even want to use woke anymore. I
I
don't
know,
even like
right?
that word.
Yeah, messed
It's
up
been
that word now
co-opted.
too.
Yeah, it's been co-opted and cancel woke. They've all been changed from what we use them as. So, but yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of cancel, it's not on the topics, but I did see the grid sent this morning. We're not gonna get into this too much, but the dude, I don't. What's his last name? The dude Taylor Swift is dating. some more stuff
Oh
has
yeah, I
come out
read
on
that
him.
yesterday. Oh
Yeah,
gosh, he's gross.
and which makes her gross. She's
Well,
out there, she's selling out. No, well, here's why I say it makes her gross, because when reading
I've
that
I've
stuff,
always kind of wondered about her in the first place. I wasn't buying the
yes,
sweet,
yeah,
sugary
and then
syrup.
she's faced that whole cancellation thing before too, right? And
Hmm.
now it's like people are up in arms with this idiot, this disgusting human being. She's now dating. You know what? They talk now. If she was black, here's the thing. I hate to put it this way. I hate to throw race all the time and stuff. But if she was a
Oh, play
black
the
woman,
race
they'd
card.
be
Why
calling
don't
her,
you?
oh, huh?
I
What do you
said, play
say?
the race card.
Play the race card. That's the only card we got left. OJ messed up the card, but we trying to
Yes, you did.
rehabilitate the card. But if she was a black woman, every time she breaks up with someone, like within a day or two, she's with somebody else. They be calling her all types of names so we don't get too in the mud. Stuff like tramp, but worse than tramp. They'd
Yes,
be calling her all
yes,
types of stuff, right? If she was a
yes,
black woman.
yes.
Um, this guy, Nazi Saluda, he went all in on this Ice Spice girl. I barely even know who Ice Spice was until recently. But regardless of that, I mean, calling her these wicked names and stuff like that. But then he says that he gets sexual pleasure out of black women being tortured. He watches videos of black women being sexually tortured, which gives him sexual pleasure.
Yeah, it's a porn site, Game Gaggers or something like that. I read it yesterday, and then I listened to some of the snippets of the conversation as well. And first of all, the fact that these things are out there is just gross to me. But I guess it's a site where maybe women are being exploited because maybe they're homeless, hungry, need to take care of their children. So they're letting people do things that they
Oh, so
wouldn't
those are the
normally
type
allow.
of people. Oh,
They're in
okay.
desperate situations. So this porn is being filmed because they're in desperate situations. And then he's masturbating to this kind of porn. And the article I read said
I
like
was
he
trying
had
to
a
keep everything all family friendly. I said
no, I'm
sexually
sorry.
pleasure themselves.
I'm
She
sorry.
just, he said, look, call it what
I
it
thought
is.
that was an okay word.
Call it what it is. Good night.
I
I
tried.
expect this behavior from Barrington.
I tried. It was to me.
Oh, what
It's
is
the
the
right
guy?
word. I don't know. I tried, but okay. I'm sorry. I feel like
No,
sexual
no,
pleasure
no.
is worse.
What we don't do is censor anybody on this show. So go ahead.
I feel like sexually pleasure is worse. Is worse. But he's just gross. I think he's just gross. And so for
Well,
me,
yeah, go ahead.
this whole Taylor Swift is this syrupy, sugary sweet role that she plays,
She's
and
a
she's all about
disgusting
female
pig.
empowerment. She's all about, you know, and I've always thought there was a little I always thought there's a little fakery there.
Oh,
So
totally,
and
totally.
you know, and so now this begs and I saw a lot of her fans are kind of like, okay, Taylor, what's good, Taylor? Like Nikki said, what's good? What's really going on?
She's from the sticks of Pennsylvania, and I know exactly where she's from. And it does his behavior, not that he's from there, his behavior emulates the behavior of people from where she's from. I'm not saying that's
Mm,
her, but maybe I am saying it's her. But the thing about it is she happily she knows all of this stuff and she goes along with
yeah.
it. This desperate superstar billionaire picks up the trash all the time. Whatever comes her way, she picks it up. Britney Spears has an excuse.
You
And I
said
feel bad for Britney Spears.
we're censoring. We're trying to keep it family friendly. She picks up the trash.
She picks up the trash, somebody else's garbage, and she goes out and dates that trash. And
They
this is
didn't
what
make a
she
song
gets.
about it or a whole album about it.
It's unbelievable. And this guy,
Yeah.
and so you just explained that the disgusting sight. I was just saying to Greer, I'm like, gotta be desperate people to do stuff to allow this. But you just said that. You just said that they are
Yeah.
homeless people. Isn't that like isn't that against the law? Isn't that like
I
rape?
think from what I read, I think they may sign something or they get permission, but they're not fully
It's like
aware.
children then, they're
Yeah,
not in their right
yeah,
minds.
yeah.
Oh
When you're
gosh, and
desperate, you
he
do desperate things. When you're trying to feed your children,
OMG.
you do desperate things, and so you do, and they're young. A lot of them are young.
Matt, what's his name? Matt. I gotta look up it. What's her
It's
name?
Matt
Taylor Swift.
Healy or something like that.
Healy.
Hetty or
Yeah, that's I'm trying to Google his name right now.
he's
But
disgusting.
it's horrible. It's horrible. We didn't intend to go down that rabbit hole this
No.
morning, but you know, if you know, I hate to defend Beyonce and say anything good about Jay-Z, but if Jay-Z was doing stuff like that, Beyonce would catch heat. You know, if you just can't have some, you can't pretend to be representative of all these people. I will look someone I knew went to her concert the other day at Lincoln Financial Field. It was like 80,000 people. It was packed in there, right? I see pictures and
Mhm,
stuff. This is a person that has a gigantic audience, a
mhm,
gigantic
mhm.
following. She is Beyonce level, right? For white
Oh, yeah.
folks.
The Swifties. Yeah. The Swifties.
And to have that much influence, you got this piece of trash that you're running around with, doing stuff like that. And obviously, your mind, I don't care what y'all say. To say you get off on black women and being tortured, um, and now
His
you
words
tell
were
me that they're
brutalized.
homeless and other. This guy, that's the core of he's a Klan member,
He said brutalized. He
brutalized.
actually said brutalized, so he knows. I just feel like, first of all, they'll probably be broken up next week,
Right,
with
because
whatever.
she'll pick up
Yeah,
somebody else's
yeah.
trash.
But I think she's gonna get more backlash than what she thought about this person. So,
As well,
and, it,
she should.
and this is also what happens when you paint yourself as a role model.
Yep. And
You
that's
don't
and right. There you go. You got it.
leave room for mistakes. We all make mistakes. We all are human and we have frailties. But when you paint yourself as this great role model, um, that's one reason why I love Rihanna. Rihanna's not like I'm a role model. She's like I'm just me. Take it or leave
And
it.
it's interesting with Rihanna, right? Because Rihanna, she certainly wasn't a role model for a while, but she really is a role model. And
She is.
even though, and I just know that she's done a 360, 180, however you want to call it, from earlier in her career to what she's become, this ultra successful uh person, businesswoman, model, Super Bowl
Well, she
performer,
still doesn't
being
say
pregnant.
emulate me, emulate my perfection. I'm perfect. She's just like, here's who I am, but I do all these great things as well.
Yeah.
That's what I think I like about her. She keeps it real.
Yeah, exactly. Well, folks, this Matt Keeley, whatever his name is, Matt Klansman. Yeah, I gotta, he's got to be canceled immediately. And look, if it means Taylor Swift is canceled, it means Taylor Swift is canceled. Who cares? Who cares? Uh, More importantly, the IRS
Mhm.
has admitted, following an internal investigation, that black taxpayers are audited at higher rates, much higher rates. In fact, 5 times the rate of any other group. The new commissioner, um, it says that the findings come after researchers had also found that Black Americans are up to 5 times more likely to have their federal returns audited. So they did this study, and it only proved that out. And they're still, according to the commissioner, who wrote a letter to U.S. senators about enacting some sort of laws or whatever. I'm saying, oh shit. Before I go on with that thought, he's asking the Senate to do something. He's the commissioner of the IRS. He's got to do something himself. Don't pass the buck. And one of the primary reasons why they're audited more is that earned income tax credit, a
Mhm.
benefit aimed at low wage workers that has a high rate of erroneous claims. They said EITC. They're saying if you have earned income tax credit, then chances are you're going to get audited, and more Black people have that. But there are other things and other reasons. They claim too that the IRS claims that they don't track you by race.
But then
That is
how are more Black people getting audited then?
right, right,
That doesn't
right.
even make sense.
Doesn't make sense at all. Daniel Werfel is the commissioner of the IRS, and he wrote a letter. The IRS did receive about $80 billion in funding through the Inflation Reduction Act, and he said they're going to plan. The plans are to use some of that money to quote understand any potential systemic bias in compliance strategies and treatments. It's like one congressman said, he said, back in March, my colleagues and I raised alarms to the new IRS boss about Black taxpayers being over audited. And today he confirmed our suspicions. That was Representative Bill Pascrell Jr. from New Jersey. He said the IRS is making strides, but extra audits of Black Americans is disgraceful and it must end. No kidding.
Look, I don't want to say too much about the IRS. I don't.
Did you file your taxes yet?
Yes, but I don't want them coming after me.
Oh, you know what, Oshia? So,
but go ahead.
well, I got audited, and that audit took about 2 years. And it was like getting a colonoscopy. It
Oh,
was
I
horrible.
can't even. I can't even imagine. I'm like, dude, don't say it. I don't play with the I, the R, and the S. But I, I think we've known. So what this study has done is confirm what we already knew. We already know things. It's just
Yeah,
that people need to admit it. And so I'm glad that they finally admitted it. And I already knew because we tend to be the people who are most poor in this country, whether we want to admit it or not. We tend to
oh, yeah,
be on the bottom. So therefore, who tends to be audited are poor people. Rich people are not getting audited at the levels in which they should. We've heard before that there's discrepancy in the disparities in the auditing of lower income people versus wealthier class people. So it
yeah,
makes sense that we're the most audited. And when it comes to that earned income tax credit, that is one of those. That's one of those things where if you're giving poor people something, you got to make sure that they're not trying to rip off the government, because that's what poor people tend to do. It's one of those. It goes back to that whole welfare mindset of making sure that poor people don't get more than they should have.
yeah,
But wealthy people are doing. They find all kind of loopholes and ways to get around paying taxes. When you're wealthy and you're worth billions and you're paying pennies on the dollar for your taxes. Meanwhile, you're coming after this poor person because they owe $2,000.
yeah. Well, the former president was open about. First of all, he didn't pay his taxes. He didn't pay taxes, right?
I
When
wasn't
we
even
finally
trying to
got his
bring him up.
returns. But he was open about their, being able to exploit loopholes. And they, even today, the president, Biden, he's been fighting with Congress to, pass some sort of measure in which rich people pay their fair share of taxes.
It's
He's not even
their share.
saying pay more. He's saying pay their fair share, because he
Their
says
fair
it's,
share.
yeah, the fair share.
I was just reading recently that the debt, our whole issue with debt would not be what it is today if wealthy people paid their fair share. We don't connect the debt ceiling with taxes, and we don't make these connections as journalists for the public to actually understand what's going on. The debt ceiling just seems like it's so far out there, but it's and they're talking about it now in terms of, oh well, we're going to withhold and not pay poor. Again, it's on the backs of
It's
poor people. It's
poor
on the
people.
backs
Yep.
of poor people. Everything is based on the backs of poor people. Instead of actually understanding, if rich people pay their fair share, our debt will not be where it's at. We have to
Right.
continue to borrow because we're not. It's just mind boggling to me rather, that we in this country don't understand so many things about how this country actually works.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
it's
and
true.
I'm and you know I'm learning every day. Like, oh wow, wait a minute. If we connect this with this, but do we even care to know how this country actually works?
Well, I think also it appears, I should say, that people don't read. There's a
No,
reading
they don't.
problem in America. You
There's
don't
no
read.
appearance to that. They don't read, and I think and I
She
think they're
sipped
reading
when she
now.
said that.
Well, I remember when I was in college, we learned that to write your articles for people with an eighth grade education level, because that's the average eighth grade.
Mhm.
Then it's become sixth grade. One of my
Yep.
students last spring actually said fourth grade, and I was like, no, please tell me that we're not at the fourth grade level now. We
No,
cannot be
right.
that low. We cannot be at fourth grade level. That if that's the case, what's really going on? We're
Yeah,
talking.
well, you remember in the '80s, under Ronald Reagan, there was this is the first time I heard this slogan, "The dumbing down of America."
Yes,
And that
I've heard that
that
my entire
basically
life.
began in the '80s. Yeah.
I've heard
It
that
be
my entire life,
uh,
and we're okay with it.
Are you saying
Don't
that
even get me
twice?
started,
Did you
Stacy.
say that twice, that you heard that your entire life to let people know that you were probably born in the '80s or close to the '80s, that you're not
Oh,
that old?
I can tell you when I was born in the '70s. I'm a '70s baby, proud of it. I'm not
She's
one of
like,
those
"You
people that don't
speak
want to
for
share my
yourself."
age. I'm not ashamed of my age. I'm happy because I feel like every year is a blessing. Every day is a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. Power 96 says the IRS does it by names. LaRonda and Jamal will be audited way more than Ken and Karen.
Well, that's
Power
another
96.
reason to name your to you know they were this whole job resume and looking at
Yep.
names and stuff. So that's another reason to name your child with the name that no one can guess. But so are we saying that someone whose name someone from another from Eastern Europe, their names are not easy to, their names are very distinct.
But they also know that they're Eastern Europe.
Okay, what about Indian? What about someone
Eh,
from India or Pakistan? So we're just saying now, we're just like, okay, any name that sounds black, we're just taking them out.
Hey, that sound black. Rejected. Black. Reject. That's the way it is. But I remember though, back speaking of again the '80s. Is that yeah? It was like beginning of the '80s, the eighth grade. I mean sixth grade, and my teacher, who was a Jamaican guy, a Jamaican man, Mr. Watson, he would say that he'd say, you know, you got. He would tell us, and we were 12 years old, and he would say, you want to give your kids distinguished names when you grow up. He would say that. You want to give them more distinguished names. He hated this
What's distinguished to
so-called
him,
ghetto
though?
names. Huh?
What's distinguished to him, though? Because to me, that's also a European standard.
Well, his point
That's
was
respectability
there was
politics.
listen, there was no let me just make sure I set the record straight. There was no more proud of black man than that guy. That guy taught my sixth grade teacher probably was the most he was certainly one of the two or three most influential men in my life. Um, he was as black as they come. As far as I'm black and I'm proud, I can see Mr. Watson marching in
Yes.
the civil
Oh, I
rights,
believe it. I
everything.
believe, but he was probably in the respectability politics, though, too. That
Well,
like
no,
a
I no, his
Jonestown.
thing was like he would never go for if you know pull your pants wearing below your belt, if you slouching, sit up. I mean, this
Yes,
guy was like, we
life
as black
excellence.
people,
Life
yeah, we
excellence.
as black people, we already have all these strikes against us.
Yes.
He did. He now he didn't kowtow to anybody, but he just said, "You be stern in what you." This guy was, he was an incredible guy. He was an incredible man. He said, Power 96 says those folks changed their name. Look at
Yeah,
Nikki
they do.
Haley and Ted Cruz. That ain't their names. He's right.
That's true.
And ever watched those classic movies? And all of those guys, the famous ones, they never use their real names. They all change their names. Power 96 is right.
Yeah, that's true.
Angela Connolly says, if you can call us niggers, then you can call us by our proper name. I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna say my name correctly.
We're gonna
Uh,
say it. Say my name. Muhammad Ali beat somebody in the ring half to death because he wouldn't say his name. He made him say his name. Say it. I didn't stutter. Oshia don't play. Chris said Oshia don't play.
No, I do
Uh,
not. I do not. I've never have. But I've also gotten a little. I used to have a bad attitude about it. I did. I used to get so tired of it. And I hate when people just, if you can't say the first name, just skip it and say the last name. It's
skip it.
not that
Yep.
daggone hard. Say the last name. I'm a. But I also got smarter and said, let me stop making myself angry and put the pronunciation in my email. So I actually started doing that. And I also put Ms. on there now because people assume I'm a Mister. So I just decided I wasn't going to allow myself to keep getting angry about this issue and just, I've matured.
She's wait, but I want to go back. She didn't say she was tired. She said, I'm tired. It wasn't tired. I'm tired. It was like emphasis on tired. Michelle Madison said, talking about my sixth grade teacher, he was probably talking about so-called ghetto names and encouraging his students to stay away from them. And you're absolutely right. And Power 96, of course, comes with the winner. He says his government name is Orenthal. So there you go. Here you go.
And not to stay too far in this issue, but I feel like, again, when we say ghetto names, why are we allowing people to make us feel bad about whatever name we choose to name our kids? There are, I mean, you got Apple. Gwyneth Paltrow named her child Apple. We have all these. There's a lot of names out there that people choose. Um, that and I have some more, but I can't think. But again, why are we allowing someone to make us feel bad about our creativity? You know, that's our creativity there. So whether I agree with the name or not, because I've seen some names now, I'm not saying that they're. I'm not saying I like all the names I see, but I've also seen some crazy names, regardless, across the spectrum. White folks do it too now.
White folks do it too, but the problem is, I think the problem is a lot of times people live either down to or up to that name when they get that
You got a
name.
good point there. Yeah, you got a
And
good
that's the
point there.
problem. That
You
is the
got a good
problem.
point. You do. I
But
mean, that is a good point. When your name means something, it instills something in you. It
mhm.
definitely does. It makes you feel a certain way when you feel like you have a name that means something, or you're named after someone in your family who did. Yeah, you're right. I can't argue with
We don't want to argue with Bashir. Listen, Oshia, the Supreme Court of South Carolina said that they will hear oral arguments in a redistricting case where the NAACP is challenging the state's Republican plan as racially motivated. The role of the state's most powerful Democrat, the kingmaker himself, Rep. James Clyburn, is likely to play an important part in the discussions, according to legal experts. In 2021, South Carolina Republicans, this is very, very important. South Carolina Republicans reshaped the voting map, taking a district that had been in the hands of a Democrat as recently as 2018 and making it a much safer seat for the incumbent Republican. The NAACP brought a suit against the effort, and in January, three Democratic appointed judges ruled in the group's favor. The Supreme Court, though, can decide to restore the map that the Republicans drew or order the legislator to create a new map. But the case comes after a series of rulings from the High Court that have made partisan gerrymandering easier, though the courts have still deemed redistricting predominantly based on race to be illegal. Legal experts are saying that South Carolina case will help define the limits of how much a legislature can consider race as it draws new maps. So, but South Carolina Republicans, here's the rub. They have defended their efforts, saying that they were not motivated to dilute Black political power. Lawyers for the states argued that they did not consider race in making their map. They also contended that their map could not have targeted Black voters because they worked with Jim Clyburn, one of the most powerful Black Democrats in the country. And Clyburn, according to ProPublica, in their reporting, Clyburn made the deal with the Republicans in which it would made his seat and only his seat safe, and gave them the rest of the state pretty much. So Clyburn, according to the reporting, now we haven't independently verified the report, but according to ProPublica, Clyburn essentially sold out Democrats in South Carolina to make sure that he kept his seat. This, if true, really puts him in a really bad spot as this hearing before the Supreme Court unfolds.
Now, I like ProPublica. I read ProPublica regularly, so I'm going to go ahead and believe what they reported. And even if we found out he wouldn't be the first person to do this. This just, I don't even know where to begin, because the more you talk, the more mad I got, the more angry I got.
He's like, shut up, will you?
It's just all about power. And once again, these old Black people don't want to let go of power. They want to keep the power and
everybody else, right?
Themselves. And they don't want to let younger Black people come up through the ranks. And it's just so much to unpack here. He's the same person that's talking about making the Black national anthem, making that be the national anthem, as if that's going to heal. As if that's going to heal race relations. I mean, he's about himself. Obviously, he's about himself, which happens to most politicians, I truly believe. So he's not doing anything. He's not doing anything that's not common. It's very common. You may start off well, but once power corrupts, right? Power corrupts. You get into office. You get a little bit of power, and you want more, and you want more, and you want to keep it forever. I get it. But he's representing himself as if he cares about the people. And he's giving the white Republicans cover now. He's giving them cover to say, hey, like they said, we didn't do this with any racism in mind, because look, we got a Black man who was on board with this. So obviously, it's okay, because he said it was okay. He covered.
Bakari Sellers, a former state Democratic lawmaker who once served on the redistricting committee, said there is a very unholy alliance between many Black legislators and their Republican counterparts in the redistricting process. I remember, now the NMPA every year has its legislative conference, the annual legislative conference, and at the same time that the NMPA doesn't call it the legislative conference, the CBC does, but the NMPA has its annual whatever in September at the same time. And the first time I went some years ago, almost 10 years ago now, it's actually more than 10 years ago now, I'll never forget a very prominent, I was having a conversation with a very prominent congressman, Democrat, Black congressman, and which narrows that down, right? And he said, and he was very, very blunt about it. He said, let me tell you something, Mr. Brown. He said, we fight with the Republicans. He said, but I'm going to tell you, many of us on my side and those who look like me are worse than those Republicans. And I said, wow. And this,
anything I don't know.
Yep. And I remember. Let me tell you how vividly I remember this. I remember the room we were in. I remember how it smelled. I remember everything about that moment.
That's become a core memory now. It's a core memory for you.
Yes.
But and that's why I think we as journalists, particularly the Black media, has to hold our Black leaders, our Black lawmakers accountable. We can't just rally for them because they're Black. We need to hold them accountable. We need to make sure they're the right Black person, not just any Black person, but the right Black person. I think for too long we've just said, oh, we need to get a person that's Black in there, and we're happy when we do. and they could be more detrimental than the white person next to them. Sometimes the white person may be less detrimental than that black person, unfortunately.
And that's
We have
really
to start being savvy in that way and understanding what we're saying when we give you our vote, and not just, it's just a lot, and we need to just do better, because he's been around forever and he's been allowed to do this. That's why and to him it made perfect sense to protect himself, not protect his constituents, but himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then he's
Well,
gonna spin it like, oh, if I'm not here, who's gonna protect you? If I don't do it, who's gonna? So it's still about him.
yeah, it's true. It's true. And that goes across the board though, not just with
Yeah.
politicians, with anything. Like for instance, we say buy black, shop black, right? Now, when I go to the bodega, if it's black owned, and he's got a 2-day-old coffee cake that he wants to charge me $1.39 for, and if I go down the street to the white bodega, a white owned shop, and they got a fresh coffee cake for half the price, what am I supposed to do?
You'll be a fool to buy the 2-day-old coffee cake,
Thank
but
you.
then you're wrong. You're wrong, and you're
But
not
I'm
supporting.
wrong.
I understand because we try to support black all the time. But sometimes, the service, I mean, I
Uh-oh.
texted my daughter one day. I said, I literally waited at this restaurant for an hour for my food. I said, I'm tired. I can't anymore. I literally waited just for like 15, 20 minutes for service. Then I waited. Then I was like, hey, do you want me to pay you? Can I go ahead and pay you? And I was like, and I don't want to paint anything with a broad brush, because I hate when we do that to each other. But sometimes it's like, you know what? We are our own worst enemy so many times for no real reason. No real reason. And that's kind of getting off of Clyburn, but it still goes back to how we treat each other. Why does he feel the need to protect himself versus protecting the constituents who put him in office? It's about them. Politics, you're supposed to be a leader servant, or a servant leader, whichever. And it becomes all about me, and how much power I can gain. And when we say things like he's a kingmaker, he's human. Why would that not go to his head? It will go to my head. You said that I'm a kingmaker. I sure am. And now he thinks he's all powerful.
I think
and we need to get we need to get some young people sometime. I don't want to be ageist, but come on. Why?
When you got Dianne Feinstein rolling in on 4 wheels at 90-something years old,
I was just thinking about yesterday. And they're arguing about the age of Trump and Biden. I'm like, they're not that far apart. Really, no one wants to be the president in their 40s anymore, in their 50s or 60s. Everybody's in their 70s and 80s. That's what we have to choose from.
Look, Clyburn,
when you should be like relaxing.
Clyburn may be the kingmaker, but I'm the queen maker. I got 4 daughters, so I'm a queen maker.
I know that's right, Stacey. Would you say name you the queen maker? That's your power. and I also understand, like, you want to see things through. You implement, this is your body of work. You've been doing this for your whole entire career. You want to start something and finish it through. But my goodness, we need term limits and get people out the door sometimes. Some of them just sitting there making deals for themselves, eating good.
Wow. I love it. All right. So
I don't know why y'all called me this morning. I'm
no, she's loaded for bear. Listen, one of my favorite movies it was Love and Basketball.
Yes. That is one of my favorites too.
Wasn't that Gabrielle Union?
No,
it was Sanaa Lathan, right? But Gabrielle,
yeah,
I think she produced that movie or something. She directed it or something.
She was in it.
She was in it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no way I can get Gabrielle mixed up with Sanaa. I've been in love with Sanaa forever, until recently. I lost my love for her. I fell out of love with her.
Did she do something in particular?
I don't know. It's just
time for that crush to go.
Lost at luster. I haven't really seen her
Yeah.
in anything really that great lately, so she's lost that
Yeah,
luster.
she old now. She
It's not
old.
that she's old, because she's always gonna look good, but
I'm just
whatever.
saying, when they new and fresh on the scene, it's a different she on the scene. But Nia Long will never not be that girl.
Yeah, everybody loves Nia Long. Every
Yes.
that love of Nia Long was renewed after, that idiot Celtics coach did what he did. I mean,
Yeah.
goodness grief. I'm using the word idiot a lot today because I had Barrington on yesterday and he didn't say it. He didn't use that word. So I'm making up for it. But Gabrielle Union is opening up about her family's finances. Um, she revealed in a recent Bloomberg interview that her household splits everything 50-50. She's married, of course, to former NBA player Dwayne Wade, Miami Heat champion
Mm,
Dwayne Wade, who's 9 years younger than her. She shares a 4-year-old daughter with Dwayne, and she also is a stepmother to Dwayne's 3 children from his previous relationships. Um, she talked about this. She says it's weird to say I'm head of the household because in this household we split everything 50-50. But in the other households that each of us have to support, there's always this gorilla on your back that is like, you better work, you better work. You want to sleep in? Somebody might not eat. And it's hard. It's hard to let that go. So I'm working on that. She added that having a family to support motivates her to keep working hard. She says, I have more responsibilities for my money. I get nervous, like, oh God, that movie didn't open. Well, what does that mean? Am I going to have enough to hold everybody up? I'm trying to find peace in the journey, not using my anxiety and scarcity mindset to be my engine, which is hard. It's a lot to really unpack with what Gabrielle is trying to convey here.
yeah. Yeah, and I don't think yeah, I feel like I need more context too. Like I need the whole conversation to understand what question was posed here and how we got to this part. Because yeah, I think scarcity mindset is real. She definitely is probably concerned with, do I have enough money? She definitely has people, she has employees. She's probably taking care of family members. That's what happens when you happen to be the rich one in the family, especially that wealthy. She's taking
Mhm.
care of some family members. And again, she has employees. And there's probably this idea too of setting my kids up for the future. You know what? They're probably going to private school. Uh, her daughter probably has, the shady baby probably has tutors and swim lessons and all these private this and private that. There's just a different so yeah, that probably keeps her up. And if she already has anxiety, then she probably has anxiety about these things. That's just probably who she is as a person regardless. That's just her anxiety at work. um
Pow Listen, Power 96 says 50-50. She is blessed. It is 100-0 in my house. My wife hasn't paid a bill in over 20 years. Ask Gabrielle if she needs a side dude. But you know what?
I'm not even
So,
gonna touch that one. I'm not even gonna
but
touch
but
that.
but are
Yeah,
these
I
oh
think,
shit, these are rich people problems.
but they are rich people problems, and that's why I don't get involved. That's why I don't get involved, and I don't care because it's
So
it's rich people problems.
I want to
But I
read to
think, well, let
you.
me just say 50-50. I think, what I don't know what she means when she says 50-50, because like everybody does their, in your household, everybody does their whole checking and banking system their own way. I
Mhm.
don't know. Maybe everybody puts it in the pot and then they have their separate accounts for their fun stuff. Maybe they put everything together. I don't know what 50-50 means. I don't
Yeah,
know. So
yeah,
I need more
yeah.
details, and I really don't care because I'm over here worried about my bills, not her bills.
Michelle's Delicious Delights writes in that I believe she's doing what is best for her family and situation. That sounds like a sponsorship that we should have. Uh, Let it be known, brought to you by Michelle's Delicious Delights.
Right.
So some this is what some folks have wrote on social media. One Twitter user says this is so unnecessary. As an independent career woman, I don't have a problem with any woman who wants to support herself and contribute to paying bills. However, stop this portrayal as if you're living paycheck to paycheck. It's not a good look when hubby's got mega bank. Well, she's got mega bank. Also, somebody else wrote, women are terrified of 50-50 because the unpaid labor is rarely 50-50. So women end up being exploited. This is a working class, poor people issue. Please stop projecting onto millionaires, Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade. And two others I'll read you. Hyper independence is a trauma response. What Gabrielle Union is describing is poverty, trauma, and or her inability to trust anyone else. And finally, one other person quipped, y'all do understand that multimillionaire Gabrielle Union splitting bills 50-50 with her multimillionaire husband, Dwayne Wade, is entirely different than you, an hourly worker, going 50-50 with your hourly worker.
Again, rich people's problems. And I don't care.
I don't care.
I don't care about her and Dwayne figuring out their money. I mean, I'm trying to figure out my own money. So, but again, seriously, I do think there's some truth to the idea of having a poverty mindset and the trauma and the scarcity mind. I think there's some truth to that those things, who you are what happened to you as a child sticks with you. Mm-hmm. And that is who you are. That's the core of who you are. So if you were poor as a child, then your whole goal is as an adult is driven by the anxiety again of not being poor as an adult, not letting your kids be poor. It is very much a trigger and it's very much a thought. I did a long time ago, I did some financial classes. And one of the things that they had us do was write down how we spend money every single day. And I don't spend money every single day unless it's a bill or something, but I don't spend money every day. But what I noticed is I over shopped for groceries. I shopped for groceries way more than I needed to. At the time, it was just me and my son. I didn't have my daughter then. And they asked me, why are you spending so much money on groceries? And I had to think about it. And I said, well, because when I was a kid, we didn't have enough. We didn't have enough groceries. So I was like, my son will never go through this. He will never open the pantry, never open the cabinet and wonder, or the refrigerator and wonder what's going on here. So, and I still to this day over grocery shop, and I'm okay with that. Now I know my reason, I know my why, and I'm okay with that. But that's what I'm saying. We have these triggers that we don't even know we have a lot of times, and it comes out in many ways. And poverty plays a large role in your mind. No matter how far you go, how much money you have, she still probably thinks about things that happened to her as a kid that she will never let happen. You know, she's probably my kids will never worry about not having nice tennis shoes. You know, it's those kind of things that drive us, and we often don't know that we're driven by it.
Well, first of all, two things. Dr. Nicole says, like Will and Jada, they tend to overshare their family business. But Greer says that people are so critical of this family, the media goes so hard on this couple, it's ridiculous. And both can be true. I think both are true.
I think both can be true.
But I also say this: it's the quintessential millionaire billionaire problem, and that is, it's never enough money, and it's never going to be enough money, and that's a personal issue. And look, she's going to have to deal with it, and he's going to have to deal with it as well. They will never have enough money in their minds and for their comfort levels, and most rich people do have that problem.
They're spending at that level of that they have.
Right. And here's the thing. Here's a simple solution to that, right? You can have your mansion and your yachts and all that stuff, but find some other areas where you don't really need it. Find that third house somewhere over in Long Island or New Hampshire that you use maybe once every other year, and sell it. Get rid of it. You know, the homeboys that you still carrying, Dwayne, get rid of them, right? Cousin Tom, who always behind on Bernie Mac said it best. He was on the Oprah Winfrey show, and I forget the other comedian. I think maybe I forget the other comedian. It should come to my head. But he was telling Oprah was asking him in the comedians, like how everybody asks, all the family members, they ask for money. And he um, he said, Bernie said, here's the thing. So he just says no. He says, you know why he says no? He says, like, some uncle will call him up. Oh, Bernie, Mac man, um, I'm 8 months behind on my rent. Bernie's like, why didn't you call me when you was 1 month behind? This is what people do, right? When you got money.
Why are you calling me at all? Why are you calling me about my money? People,
Yeah.
well, to Griz's point, we always telling black people what to do with their money. We always in somebody's pockets. Mind your
Well, here's the
business.
thing. So don't complain. Don't publicly complain that this is a problem, because it's really not. It's a fixable problem, right? You
Yeah.
make it sound so traumatizing. So you throwing it out there, so you're gonna get feedback.
Well, that's
And
why I need
here's
to
the
know what
feedback.
the conversation was. I need to understand what was the question. How was it
Right,
posed to her? What are we talking about here? Because we're going off of just the answer, but not the whole conversation. And then
right.
everybody gets all up in arms about them. But again, these are again rich people's problems. I don't have these problems yet. Maybe one day I will, and you'll have me back, and I'll talk with an accent, and and I'll talk about how sad it is to be this filthy rich. How the IRS, how I've gone and figured out loopholes with my attorneys.
Yeah, I think that, to an extent, that is true, that we tend to say, "Oh, you should do this or you should do that." Tell me, but at the same time, if you're looking for a solution, let's put it that way. If you're looking for a solution, there are solutions, and here's the other part of it, and a big part of it is that ain't nobody gonna feel sorry for you, because
No,
there are people literally paycheck to paycheck.
there are people
So
not even paycheck to paycheck. There are people starving.
exactly,
There are
right.
people
It's
going
day to
around this
day.
porn site. People getting exploited on this porn site because they're desperate. So I mean, there's so many things to be worried about.
Let me tell you
But
something.
see how we focus.
I just
On the nonsense with Gabrielle and Dwayne, but we're not focused on the serious issues such as helping people who
Yeah,
are
oh,
desperate. I mean,
absolutely.
that goes back to what we focus our attention on. And we were
Let me tell
talking
you something.
earlier.
I just on Sunday, a family that I know, I just paid for them a week in a hotel. That's how their situation is. So you're
Well, I'm
absolutely
glad
right.
that you were able to do that for them. I'm glad you were able to help them. I'm glad that you were in their life and you were there to help them. And
And
that's
so am I.
what and that's the kind of stuff like we're so focused on celebrities and celebrity problems and celebrity
Mhm.
issues that and I know part of it is an escape. I know some of it is an escape,
Oh yeah.
but it's also silliness when we have so many real problems out here and real issues that we need to actually put our energy toward. And that's where it gets on my nerves. Like we spend way too much time talking about Jada and Will, Gabrielle and
Mhm.
Dwayne, and whoever else, LeBron and Savannah, and all their problems or their quote unquote problems. We have real problems that we can actually help. We need to be worried about Clyburn and what he's doing. It's that kind of foolishness that gets under my skin. We need to be worried about, are we reading at the fourth grade level or
Well,
not in
and
this
Clyburn's
country?
situation though, Clyburn's situation affects uh, a lot of folks though. Let's be
It
real
affects
about
a lot
that
of
one.
people.
Yeah,
Yes,
his
that's what I'm
situation.
saying. But
Yeah.
we the debt ceiling, like what are we focus on so many issues that are non-issues in real life that don't matter in the grand scheme of life. And that's what gets under my skin. I don't mind it for entertainment and laugh and talk about it,
Mhm.
he. But people really, really spend their whole day focused on this stuff
Yeah, and that's
versus
that's
anything
unfortunate.
else.
Yep, that is unfortunate. You're right. That escape becomes an obsession,
Yeah,
and they do. They
yeah.
spend all day on social media. You walk. Listen, we were riding down the highway just yesterday, and we saw this car just swerving, just swerving. Every time a car passed, we like, oh my god. Me and my wife was like, oh, this car is going to hit that car. If it don't hit, so we decided we needed to get around this car too. So when we finally got
Hmm.
around this car, this lady literally leaning over, texting. leaning to the side, like, and texting and texting and I'm thinking, oh man, what people are on these devices they're such a good thing, but they become such a dangerous thing. It's
Yeah,
unreal.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It says a lot about where we're at. I mean, I really that's why I love shows like this, because giving information, but we're also adding a little entertainment in as well. But we're also making sure people get some information to dig deeper, go back, learn more, find out what's really going on in your communities, because it matters. It matters. And for us, as we just saw, we've lost how many millions and years
80
of life?
million years in life. That means
Yeah,
some
that
goodness grief. That
so,
yeah,
and we
it's
see and we
incredible.
know this. We know these things and we see these things. So that's why I love shows like this, because it puts it all in the context of like, we got to get serious. We have to get serious sometimes.
Yeah, we do, and again, this is what the black press is supposed to do, right? 196 years we're supposed to do this. And speaking of the black press, there's a couple of quick notes before we close out. The Cincinnati Herald, from the Cincinnati Herald, the countdown for the expo, the Black Expo, which will take over downtown Columbus for 4 days, include diversified events celebrating African American culture, people history, and contributions. They're welcoming more than 30,000 people for the weekend and expanding to the Greater Columbus Convention Center. The expo will be one of the largest events of its kind this year. It kicks off Thursday, May 25th. There will be a Level Up Business Conference presented by Eventi Enterprises. Again, sounds like a potential Let It Be Known sponsor. Let It Be Known, brought to you by Eventi Enterprises. So it's taking place. And so there's an economic forum, economic impact of Black founders panel. Lots of things going on. There'll be a Black Business Awards gala. So much Ohio Black Expo Golf Classic. Black people play golf too.
Yes, they
So
do.
much going on. So much there. Health, education, economic component to all of this. A huge, huge thing. The Cincinnati Herald is reporting now. Of course, the Cincinnati Herald has a sister paper in Columbus. So KRS-One is going to be there. Kevin
Oh
Ross,
wow.
Smokey Norfolk, and the
Okay.
queen of percussion, Sheila E., will be there. In addition, a
Oh
50 years
wow.
of 50 years of hip hop tribute will be presented in music representation in the areas of jazz, gospel, R&B, blues, go-go, and African dance. Go-go will get the people from DC down there, that's for sure.
Right.
So a big thing there. So hey, if you can make it down to Columbus, Ohio that weekend, you should have a whole lot of fun. Check out the Cincinnati Herald's website for more information. And Oshia, the Chicago Defender turns 118 years old. It has been dubbed the world's
Wow.
greatest weekly newspaper and has remained a paper of note in Chicago and beyond. The Defender earned its history as a chronicler and a catalyst, whether it reported the grievous details of the Emmett Till lynchings or spurred the Black Exodus known as the Great Migration. It has been steadfast in its mission to tell our most important stories, and those stories included a range of experiences from profiles of people from the neighborhood to historical moments that will be recalled decades later, like the first inauguration of Barack Obama. The Defender, of course, in fact, the president of the United States at the White House Correspondents Association's dinner last month called out the Defender in saluting the Black press. He specifically named the
That's
Defender.
awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. Congratulations to the Chicago Defender. It's good when we see our newspapers in the midst of things, and later in the
Yeah.
fall, of course, the biggest street fair there is in the world takes place because of Danny Bakewell and the Los Angeles Sentinel down there. So our papers do a lot of community stuff, but the Chicago Defender, of course, is a legacy paper. It is a legend in
Yes.
all of news, not just the Black press, but all of news. So
Well, I had a
congratulations.
section.
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I teach a journalism and writing, reporting and writing class, um, and I have a section on why the Black press exists, why we came to be, and why it still is needed today. So, and it's always I always enjoy like sharing this stuff with the students because many times they don't know. They don't know.
Yeah.
They've never heard of the Black press. They don't know it exists. So when they're kind of like, oh wow, I just like to see that light bulb come on. Of no, there's a reason we came into existence. So
Yeah. Power
and
96
still
said he
need
needs to
today.
wait. Make his, he says he needs to make his way up there. He never knew black people lived there except the Ohio players. What is wrong this
In
morning, Power
Columbus,
96? I know. Columbus is full of black folk.
maybe because I'm a Midwesterner, maybe because I live in Indianapolis, maybe I know these things.
Wow. Well, O'Shea, we know how busy you are. We really, really appreciate you taking out the time this morning to join. Let it be known. Power 96, he says he reads black newspapers daily. That's what we like to hear. That's what we like to
Yeah.
see. And
Well, thank you for
we
having
also
me.
know that,
Thank you for inviting me.
yeah, well, shoot, why wouldn't we invite O'Shea Boyd? And we got to say her name right. She's tired of it. Hey, enjoy your Wednesday. It's hump day, so enjoy. And it's another day closer to Friday. We'll see you tomorrow.
Amen.